Can it work? Can India's economy hold up?
India's economy grew massively over the past 10 years.
As in this 2024 election, a lot is about that growth. But who will benefit from these gains?
In this piece, we will ask whether India can sustain the growth of the past and what obstacles lie ahead. Because many are betting on the story to continue.
India is the place to be.
Despite the growth story, India is facing a massive job crisis.
When it comes to job, even the experienced people are struggling.
They make the machines that help build our world. Schwingstätter is a symbol of India's construction boom. Originally a German company, they are now owned by a Chinese conglomerate, an industry leader in construction equipment.
Once the assembly is completed, it is taken for testing and then it is taken for painting to the paint shop.
According to the company, Schwingstätter India today employs 2,700 people at 5 factories and they expect to grow over the coming years.
As we speak, that factory is also reached the full capacity in terms of installed capacity, and we are going for another new project around the same place where we are investing another 50 acres of land.
The construction sector has made up about 10% of India's economic output in the past years, adding housing, streets, and airports to the economy.
We need construction, we need more infrastructure, we need more transport, we need more energy and other logistics, for sure. But looking only at that is never enough.
Let's come back to what Jayati Ghosh is saying here in a minute, and let's zoom out real quick. India's growth story is remarkable, growing on average by 7% in the past. But the World Bank forecast for the next couple of years is slightly below those numbers of the past. So what's the problem with construction in regard to growth?
Most construction, especially large-scale construction, doesn't generate too many new jobs, and real wages have been falling in this sector.
The Indian government has spent massively on infrastructure, and the sector has been an engine for growth. Some experts say the government did a good job with that. But let's look at another sector that has grown in the past, and that Narendra Modi promises to expand if re-elected.
The IT sector is at the core of Modi's agenda to generate growth in the coming years. Here at SAP in Bengaluru, they work on the future of conducting business. The global software company just expanded to a second campus in the city and employs more than 15,000 people in India. But while they win prizes for being a great employer, they still struggle to find the staff they need.
For us, it's very important that our talent whom we hire as a product company needs to bring that strong interplay of technology as well as business skills. And finding those skills right from university sometimes can be a challenge.
SAP houses its largest research and development unit here in Bengaluru. They develop new ways of interacting with users, driving the research that allows for future economic growth. But India as a whole seems to be falling behind. In comparison to its peers, public spending on R&D in reference to GDP decreased. The government says this is due to larger growth in the economy. Some companies work with the government and universities to get ahead. But
it is a strange situation. The government incentivizes growth in the tech sector, but the tech sector doesn't deliver growth for everyone in India. In particular, it fails to generate the amount of jobs needed for the millions of university graduates who struggle to find work.
even the students of the most prominent Indian universities face this outlook.
When it comes to job, even the experienced people are struggling.
इतनी नहीं मिलती है।
प्राइवेट जॉब आप करना ही नहीं चाहते हो?
प्राइवेट्स नहीं करनी है मुझे, मैं गवर्नमेंट से करनी है, इसमें सिक्योरिटी है।
But anyway, we don't have many prospects of jobs unless you want to, work like 12 hours a day and then, get such a minimum sort of a salary.
It is no wonder that a lot of young people are disenchanted by their job prospects. Taking a look at this data, young Indians are more likely to be unemployed if they have more education. That's something that makes sense because pressures to work may simply be higher if you have little education. What is staggering is that the most recent numbers show that especially for the very well educated, this trend has picked up. In 2022, nearly 29% of young adults with graduate degrees or above were unemployed.
The economy is flourishing, but it's not flourishing for everyone. It is flourishing for a small minority. But the rest, they are still sort of struggling or, they're kind of stuck.
There is one strategy for generating growth that the government is placing much hope on: drawing in outside investment. After lowering labor standards and import tariffs for electric vehicles, American EV maker Tesla is now considering a plant in India, and iPhone maker Apple remains bullish. A lot of outside money has come to India over the past 20 years. But overall foreign direct investments have dropped recently,
and some experts expect a further decline. And the government has been slow to liberalize trade with other countries. Lastly, many investors are moving their money towards the United States right now, raising questions about how outside capital will grow manufacturing in India.
if you look at how much the whole manufacturing industry has contributed to overall economic growth over time, you can see that it has stagnated and even decreased in the past few years. That contrasts with countries like Bangladesh and Vietnam, which have picked up manufacturing shares from companies that have left factories in China in the past decade. But there are more problems ahead that a future government will have to tackle. For one, even if India's economy keeps growing, the growth may put lives at risk, as this very growth contributes to global warming. India is now the world's third largest emitter of greenhouse gases, although in per capita terms the country is way far down the list. Let's focus on emissions from construction, which are high because coal-powered electricity is used on site and in making cement. Pollution is at the core of construction. As a producer for the industry, it's a problem they acknowledge at Schwingstatter. Mr. Shakti Kumar criticizes missing monitoring for dust pollution from construction sites.
To stop this type of activities, we have launched products like a concrete recycling plant, which can completely recycle the leftover concrete back to its elements, and you can use them in production.
But there is another headwind that brings us back to the missing jobs, despite growth in India.
India's female labor force participation rate has always been lower than international levels. And even though historically in other countries it has risen with economic growth, in the Indian case it has been going down in the past 2 decades or so.
If half of your population in a country where gender discrimination is so acute doesn't join the labor force, you are suppressing your GDP automatically.
There is still some work to be done, and India seems to be able to keep growing. But what could help to turn that growth into more growth for all?
Now, what can completely drive and exponentially drive that growth is really where corporates like us, the academia and the government work really together to make sure that our talent is really equipped with all the new age skills, be it AI skills, be it business skills.
So we need to support small and medium enterprises, also support all labor intensive activities in rural areas and in urban areas. The roadmap is pretty clear, but it required dramatically different course correction.
The road for India's economy is paved with more growth. Right now, investors feel confident and there is a lot of money to be made. But it may just be growth for some.
So out of all the value added in the economy, a very large share is going to profits and a very small share relatively is going to wages.
The International Labour Organization notes that employment conditions in India remain poor, with around 90% of workers being informal. So India may sustain its growth, but possibly not everyone will benefit from its fruits.
That's it for this video on India's growth prospects. We would like to know where you see yourself in this story. Do you think it can work out? Let us know in the comments.